Hi YouTube. A lot of shows are able to evoke such strong emotions through just their animation, but even just the voice alone can reveal these strong emotions, hence why this is a podcast. These are also very big topics, so I'll be accompanied by two of my friends who are self-proclaimed experts of these two shows. The two shows that showcase this strongly are Steven Universe and BoJack Horseman, leaning very strong on the ideas of sadness, but they do so very differently. Steven Universe leans more on the idea of a happy sadness, one where you feel sorry for the characters and want them to feel better. BoJack Horseman leans on an empty depression, one where you see the characters constantly fail, even when it seems like they will improve. As a quick recap, Steven Universe is a children's animated show about a young boy who is a part of
the crystal gems will always save the day,
and his journey in life growing up as half human and a half gem, an alien species that have their core of their being be a gemstone. Steven looks human, except for the large rose quartz where his belly button should be. Despite barely being a teenager, he deals with the thousands of years of trauma of his mother figures. On the other hand, BoJack Horseman is an adult animated show about an actor who,
back in the 90s, I was in a very famous TV show,
showing his life afterward. As his name indicates, he is a humanoid horse that really showcases the joke of a horse walked into a bar and the bartender asked, "Why the long face?" Like the joke, he is a depressed alcoholic. From the beginning of his show, he constantly hurts everyone around him, pushing them away for his own selfish reasons. So why are they so different? Both Steven Universe and BoJack Horseman talk about serious issues, one that many other shows of their genre avoid. The biggest thing they focus on, being the source of the sadness, is the characters' relationships with those around them. Steven pushes for healthy boundaries, with the sadness coming from the need for them. As an example, the episode Rose's Scabbard is about how important these relationships are. One of Steven's mother figures, Pearl, struggles with the fact that Steven's mom is no longer with them, as she gave up her life for Steven to be able to live. She has to deal with the fact that Rose is no longer with them, and that Steven somehow met a pink lion who knew many of the secrets that Rose kept from everyone except her. The sadness here comes from her coping with the fact that Pearl is bringing up this relationship. Steven accepts her feelings, showcasing his understanding with a simple hug from behind as she cries to herself.
Sometimes I wonder if she can see me through your eyes. What would she think of me now?
Well, I think you're pretty great.
The sadness here comes from the fact that she lost this relationship, but there is still happiness to it. She now has a new relationship, one that is just as important, the one with Steven. This brings about a new type of happiness that is brought about by sadness. It is a feeling of hope for their future, as opposed to a feeling of emptiness that nothing will get better, as
you can make it different, you can make it right, you can make it better, we don't have to fight.
Now, here's my friend Alyssa Gemolo, that I proclaim as a Steven Universe expert. She will expand upon this with the ideas carried over as seen in A Single Pale Rose. Why this episode?
Well, it is the one that shows why Pearl was so close to Rose.
What about it do you think is sad?
It makes everyone question their friendships. Right afterward, Garnet breaks into Ruby and Sapphire, and then they have a fight. And then also, Steven had to go through so much of Pearl's own trauma to find this out, which added so much more depth to the quote.
Sorry to make you come all this way.
But still, is there a lining of hope you see as in most of the other episodes?
Yes, I'd say so. We know that this is a family and they fight when secrets come out, but it was with someone like Rose Quartz who had so many secrets that they were constantly fighting about. So at the end of the day, it always felt like they would come together stronger than they were before.
On that topic, BoJack Horseman is the complete opposite. Relationships, no matter what, end in tragedy. Looking at the episode That's Too Much Man, it becomes very apparent. A child star who was on the same show as BoJack, Sarah Lynn, has finally become sober after years of challenges. Just as things are starting to look good for her, BoJack arrives. From previous episodes, it becomes clear that they have an ugly and complicated history, ranging from being a parent-child-like relationship to a more mature one. When he finds a sober Sarah Lynn, he ends up convincing her to fall back into her old ways and go on a month-long bender. This ultimately ends with Sarah Lynn dying due to a heroin overdose.
Right, Sarah Lynn? Sarah Lynn? Sarah Lynn?
The sadness here is not one of wanting to see them improve from their lowest. It is instead a matter of seeing them pull people back down to their level. BoJack sees Sarah Lynn doing good and ends up bringing her down. Anytime someone does good, he brings them back down. Whether it be friends, relationships, co-workers, family, or even himself, he brings them down to their lowest. No matter how good he himself gets, he will always bring them down to his level. Every single relationship is filled with the empty dread of knowing it will end. After all,
I'm the one who has suffered the most because of the actions of BoJack Horseman.
He hurts them in an attempt to get better, but he only ever hurts himself. To expand upon this, here's my friend Rachel DeRosiers, who I have proclaimed a BoJack expert, to talk about the extension of this episode, Xerox of a Xerox. Why this episode?
Well, it is following BoJack after he got his life together. He has a job he loves away from almost everyone he hurt, but his own mistakes caught up with him. We learn that he could have saved Sarah Lynn, but
17 minutes. You waiting in the parking lot after she died.
this was the straw that broke the camel's back for him, as his life almost immediately fell apart afterwards.
So what about it was so sad?
Like I said, he could have saved her, but his own selfishness killed her. It was also from an overdose of heroin named BoJack, meaning BoJack was entirely the one who killed her. His life failed even after it seemed it improved, as it had every time before.
Does this feel in line with the rest of the show?
Absolutely. This was the thing that everything else led up to. His need to have others at his level caught up with him, which led to choosing someone close to him. Like every relationship, it failed due to his own actions, but this was the one that had consequences for him in the long run.
Both shows have many sad moments of their own, but the underlying feeling is what brings out how people truly feel about them. Steven Universe looks for the best in people, with nobody being beyond redemption. BoJack Horseman looks at it from a worse angle, one where everyone's characters suffer due to their own actions and the actions of BoJack. Due to this outlook on relationships, the saddest moments differ by a lot. Steven Universe feels hopeful, with the sadness being a good thing, a connection between the characters. BoJack Horseman feels hopeless, with sadness being an empty thing, where the characters only ever hurt each other. But what do you think? And what show should I compare next? And thanks for listening to Animated Apart.